Here are 20 facts about Muhammad Ali, which have been not discussed publicly. Muhammad Ali, the Grammy-nominated boxer. While Muhammad Ali is celebrated as the greatest heavyweight boxer of all time, few know that his influence extended beyond the ring and into the world of music. Ali was a two-time Grammy Award nominee, a rare achievement for an athlete. His first nomination came in 1964 for a comedy album titled I Am the Greatest, which showcased his signature charisma and poetic bravado. The album, filled with witty monologues and rhyme boasts, was a testament to his larger-than-life persona. Over a decade later, in 1976, he received another nomination for a children's song promoting dental hygiene and warning about the dangers of sugar. This unexpected facet of Ali's career demonstrated his ability to captivate audiences outside of boxing. His musical ventures, though unconventional for a fighter, further solidified his status as a cultural icon. Ali's foray into music was not merely a publicity stunt, but a reflection of his natural showmanship. He possessed an innate ability to entertain, whether in the boxing ring, on stage, or in front of a microphone. His comedic timing and lyrical creativity made him a compelling performer, reinforcing his reputation as a man of many talents. Unlike other athletes who dabbled in entertainment, Ali's work carried an underlying message, whether inspiring confidence, promoting health, or challenging societal norms. His Grammy nominations were not just accolades, but symbols of his influence beyond sports. Ali was not just a champion in the ring. He was a master of self-expression, leaving an enduring legacy that transcended boxing. Muhammad Ali's struggle with dyslexia. Despite his brilliance in the boxing ring, Muhammad Ali faced significant challenges in academics due to dyslexia. Diagnosed at a young age, he struggled with reading comprehension and often found it difficult to keep up with his studies. Ali later admitted that school was never a priority for him, as he could barely read his textbooks. This learning disability made traditional education a frustrating experience, leading him to focus on other talents. However, his struggles with reading did not hinder his ability to think quickly, a skill that became evident in his witty speeches and poetic trash talk. Ali's verbal dexterity, though unrefined in a classroom setting, became one of his most powerful tools in and out of the ring. Rather than allowing dyslexia to define him, Ali turned his energy toward perfecting his craft as a boxer. He proved that intelligence comes in many forms, excelling in strategic thinking, psychological warfare, and self-promotion. His ability to memorize complex fight strategies and adapt mid-bout showed a sharp mind that functioned beyond the limits of conventional education. Despite lacking a college degree, Ali became one of the most eloquent and influential figures in sports history. His journey serves as an inspiration to those who struggle with learning disabilities, proving that success is not limited to academic achievements, but is instead built on perseverance, talent, and self-belief. Muhammad Ali's introduction to boxing. Muhammad Ali's journey into boxing began with an unexpected twist. His beloved bicycle was stolen. At just 12 years old, Ali, then known as Cassius Clay, was devastated when his red Schwinn bike was taken. Furious and determined to confront the thief, he reported the theft to a local police officer named Joe Martin. Ali told Martin that he wanted to whoop whoever was responsible, but the officer advised him that before he thought about fighting, he should learn how to box. Intrigued by the idea, Ali took his first steps into a boxing gym, setting in motion a career that would make him a global icon. What started as a child's frustration over a stolen bicycle became the catalyst for one of the greatest athletic legacies in history. Under the guidance of Joe Martin, Ali quickly displayed a natural talent for the sport. His speed, agility, and determination set him apart from other young fighters, and he rapidly progressed through the amateur ranks. Within 6 years, he would go on to win a gold medal at the 1960 Olympics, proving that fate had led him to the right path. Ali often reflected on this moment, acknowledging that if his bike had never been stolen, he might never have pursued boxing. This seemingly minor incident highlights the unpredictability of destiny, how a single event can shape a person's future in unimaginable ways. Muhammad Ali's religious upbringing and conversion to Islam. Before becoming one of the most famous Muslim athletes in history, Muhammad Ali was raised in a devout Christian household. Born Cassius Marcellus Clay Jr., he grew up in a Methodist family and attended church regularly as a child. However, despite his religious upbringing, he showed little interest in faith during his early years. Like many young boys, his primary focus was on sports, adventure, and competition rather than spiritual matters. It wasn't until he rose to fame as a boxer that he began exploring different ideologies, searching for a belief system that aligned with his values and life experiences. This personal journey would lead him to one of the most defining decisions of his life, his conversion to Islam. Ali's introduction to Islam came in the early 1960s when he was drawn to the teachings of the Nation of Islam, a movement that preached self-discipline, racial pride, and empowerment for African Americans. Inspired by figures like Malcolm X and Elijah Muhammad, he found a spiritual connection that resonated deeply with him. In 1964, shortly after winning the heavyweight championship, he announced his conversion and changed his name to Muhammad Ali. This decision was met with significant controversy, as many in the media and the boxing world refused to acknowledge his new name and faith. However, Ali remained unwavering, standing by his beliefs despite criticism. His transformation was not just about religion, it was a declaration of independence, identity, and the fight for equality. Muhammad Ali's name change and the controversy that followed. In 1964, shortly after defeating Sonny Liston to become the heavyweight champion of the world, Muhammad Ali made a life-changing announcement. He was no longer Cassius Marcellus Clay Jr. He declared that Clay was his slave name and that he would now be known as Muhammad Ali, a name given to him by his spiritual mentor, Elijah Muhammad, the leader of the Nation of Islam. This decision was deeply personal, symbolizing his rejection of racial oppression and his embrace of his newfound faith. However, the name change was met with widespread resistance, particularly from the media and many in the boxing community. For years, some journalists, commentators, and even fellow boxers refused to acknowledge his new name, continuing to call him Cassius Clay as an act of defiance. One of the most infamous instances of this resistance occurred during Ali's 1967 fight against Ernie Terrell. Throughout the build-up to the fight, Terrell repeatedly called him by his former name, refusing to recognize his identity. This infuriated Ali, who saw it as an intentional insult and a challenge to his dignity. During the fight, instead of quickly knocking Terrell out, Ali prolonged the punishment, taunting him with the now iconic phrase, "What's my name?" as he landed punch after punch. This moment became a powerful statement of self-assertion and defiance against those who refused to respect his transformation. Despite years of pushback, Ali never wavered in his convictions, and over time, the world came to embrace the name that would become legendary. Muhammad Ali and the invention of the rope-a-dope. Muhammad Ali was not only one of the greatest boxers of all time, but also a master strategist who revolutionized the sport. One of his most famous contributions to boxing was the invention of the rope-a-dope technique, which he famously used against George Foreman in the legendary Rumble in the Jungle fight in 1974. Facing a younger, stronger, and more powerful opponent, Ali knew he couldn't engage Foreman in a head-to-head slugfest. Instead, he developed a brilliant strategy, leaning against the ropes, covering up, and allowing Foreman to throw wild, energy-draining punches. By absorbing the blows on his arms and shoulders while conserving his own energy, Ali waited for the perfect moment to strike back. The tactic worked to perfection. As Foreman exhausted himself trying to land knockout punches, Ali remained composed, blocking, dodging, and occasionally counterpunching to keep his opponent frustrated. By the later rounds, Foreman was visibly fatigued, his punches losing speed and power. Sensing the opportunity, Ali exploded with a sudden flurry of punches, knocking Foreman out in the 8th round to reclaim the heavyweight title. The rope-a-dope became one of the most famous strategies in boxing history, proving that intelligence and technique could overcome brute strength. Ali's ability to outthink and outmaneuver his opponents was a defining aspect of his greatness, further cementing his legacy as the greatest, both inside and outside the ring. Muhammad Ali's exhibition fight against an NFL star. By the late 1970s, Muhammad Ali was already a global icon, known for his unmatched skills in the boxing ring. However, in 1979, well past his prime, he stepped into the ring for an unusual exhibition match against Lyle Alzado, a star defensive end who played for the Denver Broncos and the Oakland Raiders. The idea of a crossover fight between a football player and a boxing legend was unheard of at the time, making this event one of the first of its kind. Alzado, a fierce competitor in the NFL, had trained hard for the bout, determined to prove that a football player could hold his own against one of the greatest boxers in history. While the fight was not an official contest, it drew significant attention and laid the foundation for future crossover fights between athletes from different sports. Despite being far from his peak, Ali still showcased his signature footwork, defensive skills, and ring IQ. Alzado, though strong and aggressive, lacked the refined technique and precision of a professional boxer. However, to the surprise of many, he put up a respectable performance, landing a few solid punches and lasting the full 8 rounds. Since it was an exhibition, no official winner was declared, though the announcers gave Ali the unofficial nod. While the fight itself did not impact Ali's legacy, it demonstrated his willingness to entertain and innovate. Decades later, crossover fights between boxers and athletes from other sports became more common, proving that Ali was once again Muhammad Ali's Olympic gold medal and the heartbreaking loss. Before he became the heavyweight champion of the world, Muhammad Ali first made his mark on the international stage as an Olympic athlete. In 1960, at just 18 years old, Ali, then known as Cassius Clay, competed in the Rome Olympics as a light heavyweight boxer. Despite his youth and inexperience compared to some of his opponents, Ali's speed, confidence, and technical brilliance set him apart. He dominated the competition and won the gold medal, solidifying his status as a rising star in the boxing world. Standing on the podium with the American flag behind him, Ali believed this was just the beginning of a legendary career. The victory was a source of immense pride for him, symbolizing his arrival on the world stage and his representation of his country. However, that pride would later turn into deep disillusionment. Upon returning home to Louisville, Kentucky, Ali still faced racism and segregation, despite being an Olympic champion. In a heartbreaking moment of frustration, Ali claimed to have thrown his gold medal into the Ohio River after being denied service at a whites-only restaurant and harassed by a biker gang. This act symbolized his growing awareness of racial injustice and his determination to fight for equality. While the original medal was lost forever, the Olympic Committee honored Ali decades later by presenting him with a replacement at the 1996 Atlanta Olympics. As he stood before a cheering crowd, lighting the Olympic torch with trembling hands due to Parkinson's disease, it was a powerful moment of redemption, proof that his legacy was far greater than a single medal. Muhammad Ali's divorce over religious differences. Muhammad Ali's devotion to Islam was not just a personal belief, but a guiding force in his life, shaping his decisions both inside and outside the ring. However, his unwavering commitment to his faith also led to the end of his first marriage. In 1964, shortly after becoming the heavyweight champion, Ali married Sonji Roy, a glamorous model and nightclub waitress. Their relationship was filled with passion, but it quickly became strained due to religious differences. As Ali became more involved with the Nation of Islam, he expected his wife to follow its strict teachings, including modest dress and lifestyle changes. Sonji, however, resisted these expectations, feeling that the religion was controlling and restrictive. She was unwilling to conform to the demands imposed by Ali's faith, leading to frequent conflicts between them. The marriage lasted only 2 years before ending in divorce in 1966. Sonji later stated that the Nation of Islam had brainwashed Ali and stolen his independent thinking. For Ali, the split was not just about a failed relationship, but about his dedication to his spiritual beliefs. He refused to compromise on his convictions, even if it meant losing someone he loved. Despite the painful separation, Ali remained committed to his faith and later married women who shared his religious views. This chapter in his life highlighted the depth of his devotion to Islam, proving that his beliefs were more than just symbolic. They were a fundamental part of his identity. Muhammad Ali's conviction for draft evasion. In 1967, at the height of his boxing career, Muhammad Ali made one of the most controversial and courageous decisions of his life. He refused to be drafted into the U.S. military during the Vietnam War. Citing his religious beliefs and opposition to the war, Ali famously declared, "I ain't got no quarrel with them Viet Cong." He argued that, as a black man facing discrimination in his own country, he saw no reason to fight a war overseas for a government that denied him and his people basic rights. His stance, rooted in both his Islamic faith and his commitment to social justice, made him a symbol of resistance. However, his defiance came at a heavy cost. The U.S. government swiftly convicted him of draft evasion, sentencing him to 5 years in prison, along with a $10,000 fine. Although Ali never served time in prison due to ongoing legal appeals, the consequences were severe. He was stripped of his heavyweight title, banned from boxing for 3 years, and widely criticized by the media and public. Many viewed him as unpatriotic, and he faced immense backlash, including death threats. Despite the hardships, Ali stood firm in his beliefs, refusing to compromise for the sake of his career. In 1971, the U.S. Supreme Court overturned his conviction, vindicating him after years of struggle. Though he lost valuable years of his prime, his unwavering stand against the war cemented his legacy not just as a sports icon, but as a powerful voice for justice and civil rights. Muhammad Ali was secretly spied on by the INSISM. Muhammad Ali's outspoken stance against the Vietnam War and his affiliation with the Nation of Islam made him a target of government surveillance. During the 1960s and 70s, the U.S. National Security Agency, NSA, launched a secret program called Operation Minaret, which monitored individuals deemed to be threats to national security. Ali, along with civil rights leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X, was placed under surveillance due to his criticism of the war and his influence over millions of Americans. The government feared that his defiant stance on the draft and his growing popularity among young people could inspire widespread resistance. As a result, his phone calls were likely wiretapped, and his activities were closely monitored without his knowledge. Ali, however, remained undeterred by government pressure. He continued to speak openly against war, racism, and injustice, refusing to be silenced by intimidation. Years later, declassified documents confirmed the extent of the surveillance, revealing how the NSA and other agencies had targeted Ali and other activists. Despite being spied on, harassed, and even convicted for his beliefs, Ali never backed down. Instead, he used his voice to challenge authority and advocate for peace. His ability to stand firm in the face of government scrutiny further proved that he was not just a champion in the ring, but also a fearless fighter for justice. Muhammad Ali receives the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Despite being vilified by the U.S. government in the 1960s for his anti-war stance, Muhammad Ali was ultimately recognized as a national hero decades later. In 2005, President George W. Bush awarded Ali the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian honor in the United States. The award was given in recognition of Ali's contributions to sports, humanitarian efforts, and his role as a global ambassador for peace. The moment was deeply symbolic, as it reflected a shift in public perception, from viewing Ali as a radical dissenter to honoring him as an American icon. The same government that once convicted him of draft evasion now celebrated him as a champion of justice and perseverance. Ali, by this time battling Parkinson's disease, stood proudly as he received the medal, his legacy now fully embraced by the nation. President Bush acknowledged his courage, not just in the boxing ring, but in standing up for his beliefs despite immense pressure. The award was a moment of redemption, proving that Ali's sacrifices and unwavering convictions had not been in vain. Though his body had weakened, his spirit remained strong, and his influence continued to inspire generations. The Presidential Medal of Freedom was not just a personal honor for Ali. It was a testament to the lasting impact of his fight for justice, equality, and peace. Muhammad Ali's negotiation with Saddam Hussein to free U.S. hostages. Muhammad Ali's influence extended far beyond sports, as he often used his global status to advocate for peace and diplomacy. One of the most remarkable examples of this occurred in 1990, when he personally traveled to Iraq to negotiate with President Saddam Hussein for the release of American hostages. At the time, tensions were high following Iraq's invasion of Kuwait, and Saddam had taken several U.S. citizens as political bargaining chips. The situation was dire, with diplomatic efforts failing to secure their freedom. Despite having no official role in the government, Ali took it upon himself to intervene, believing his reputation and respect in the Muslim world could make a difference. Though Ali was suffering from the early effects of Parkinson's disease, he endured long meetings and intense negotiations with the Iraqi leadership. Many doubted that he would succeed, but his persistence and sincerity ultimately paid off. After several discussions, Saddam Hussein agreed to release 15 American hostages. A victory that highlighted Ali's power beyond the boxing ring. His mission was not just an act of heroism, but a testament to his lifelong dedication to humanitarian efforts. This bold move solidified Ali's status as more than an athlete. He was a global figure of peace and diplomacy, willing to step into the most challenging situations to fight for what he believed was right. Muhammad Ali founded his own fight promotion company. Muhammad Ali was not only a master in the ring, but also a pioneer in the business side of boxing. In 1966, at the height of his career, he took an unprecedented step by creating his own fight promotion company, Main Bout, Inc. At the time, most boxers were heavily dependent on traditional promoters who controlled fight contracts and earnings. Ali, always a trailblazer, wanted more control over his career and financial future. By forming his own promotion, he ensured that a greater share of the revenue from his fights, including television rights, went directly to him and his partners. This move set an early example of fighter independence in an era when boxers often had little say in business decisions. Main Bout was co-owned by Ali's manager, Jabir Muhammad, along with influential boxing promoter Bob Arum. The company was instrumental in organizing some of Ali's biggest fights, including his legendary bouts against Joe Frazier and George Foreman. Over time, the company evolved and its structure changed, eventually leading to what is now known as Top Rank Boxing, one of the most successful boxing promotions in history. Ali's vision of fighter empowerment influenced generations of athletes who sought greater financial and contractual control over their careers. His decision to create Main Bout was not just about business. It was a bold statement that fighters could take ownership of their own legacies. Muhammad Ali's fight gloves sold for more than his fight earnings. The sale of these gloves highlighted not only Ali's lasting impact on sports history, but also the immense value of memorabilia connected to his career. Fans and collectors saw them as more than just equipment. They were symbols of one of the greatest moments in boxing history. The bout against Liston marked the birth of the Ali era, and the gloves served as a tangible piece of that legacy. This record-breaking auction further cemented Ali's status as a cultural icon, proving that his influence and appeal extended far beyond the ring, even decades after his retirement. Muhammad Ali's influence on the creation of the UFC. Muhammad Ali's impact on combat sports wasn't limited to boxing. His 1976 fight against Japanese wrestler Antonio Inoki is often credited as an early precursor to modern mixed martial arts, MMA. This unique bout, dubbed the War of the Worlds, was designed as a clash between boxing and wrestling, but it quickly turned into something entirely different. Inoki, understanding that engaging Ali in a stand-up fight would be disastrous, spent most of the fight on the ground, kicking at Ali's legs from a defensive position. The match, though frustrating for spectators, demonstrated the effectiveness of different fighting styles against traditional boxing, sparking discussions about what a true all-around fighter would look like. While the fight itself ended in a controversial draw, it laid the groundwork for future cross-discipline matchups. The concept of testing different martial arts against each other eventually led to the creation of organizations like Kampan in Japan, which later influenced World Pride Fighting Championships. Pride was eventually absorbed by the Ultimate Fighting Championship, UFC, the largest MMA promotion in the world today. Though Ali may not have intended to inspire a new era of combat sports, his willingness to step outside of traditional boxing helped pave the way for what would become the modern MMA phenomenon. His influence extended beyond boxing, proving once again that he was a revolutionary figure in the world of sports. Muhammad Ali, the original trash talker. Before Muhammad Ali, boxing was a sport dominated by quiet, disciplined fighters who let their fists do the talking. Ali changed that forever by introducing a new element to the game: trash talk. With his unmatched charisma and poetic wit, he turned pre-fight press conferences into performances, taunting his opponents with clever rhymes and bold predictions. He famously declared, "I am the greatest," long before proving it in the ring, and his verbal battles were often just as entertaining as his fights. His sharp tongue got under the skin of rivals, like Joe Frazier and Sonny Liston, giving him a psychological edge before the first bell even rang. His confidence, humor, and showmanship transformed boxing into a global spectacle, setting the stage for future fighters to use words as weapons. Ali's trash talk wasn't just about arrogance. It was a strategic tool that rattled his opponents and boosted his own self-belief. He would make outrageous claims, such as predicting the exact round in which he would knock out his opponent, and more often than not, he was right. His legendary insults, like calling Liston a big ugly bear and Joe Frazier a gorilla, became part of boxing history. But despite the verbal warfare, Ali's words always had an element of entertainment rather than pure malice. Today, trash talking is a staple in combat sports, with fighters like Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather following in Ali's footsteps. He wasn't just a boxing champion, he was a master of mind games, redefining what it meant to be a fighter. Muhammad Ali was nearly shot by Sonny Liston. Muhammad Ali's legendary trash talk was a powerful psychological weapon, but it almost got him seriously hurt before his first fight with Sonny Liston. In the build-up to their 1964 heavyweight title bout, Ali, then still known as Cassius Clay, relentlessly taunted Liston, calling him a big ugly bear and making a spectacle of their rivalry. He followed Liston around, shouting insults, mocking him in interviews, and even showing up at his training camp to humiliate him. While this was part of Ali's strategy to get inside his opponent's head, Liston, a known enforcer with ties to the criminal underworld, was not the type of man to take such disrespect lightly. One night in Las Vegas, Ali took his trash talk a step too far. While Liston was playing blackjack at a casino, Ali barged in and began heckling him, drawing the attention of the crowd. Frustrated and humiliated, Liston suddenly pulled out a war pistol and fired several shots at Ali. In sheer panic, Ali leaped over chairs and ran for cover, only to realize moments later that the gun was loaded with blanks. Liston had staged the stunt as a warning, reminding Ali that his intimidation tactics had limits. Though it was a terrifying moment, Ali ultimately had the last laugh. He went on to defeat Liston twice, taking his heavyweight title and solidifying his status as boxing's new king. Muhammad Ali, the most generous philanthropist in sports. Muhammad Ali wasn't just a champion in the ring, he was a champion for humanity. Throughout his life, he dedicated himself to helping those in need, becoming one of the most generous athletes in history. It is estimated that Ali helped to feed over 22 million people, suffering from hunger, and donated to more than 24 major charities and humanitarian causes. His efforts extended beyond simple financial contributions. He actively participated in relief missions, visiting war-torn and poverty-stricken areas around the world. Whether it was supporting children's hospitals, funding scholarships, or helping refugees, Ali's compassion knew no bounds. Even as his health declined due to Parkinson's disease, he continued to advocate for peace, equality, and social justice. Ali's philanthropy was driven by his deep sense of responsibility to use his fame for good. He worked with organizations like the Make-A-Wish Foundation, the UNICEF Hunger Campaign, and the Special Olympics, bringing hope to countless individuals. His travels took him to some of the most devastated places in the world, from delivering medical aid to Iraq to securing the release of American hostages. Despite his global fame, Ali remained humble, often giving away money to strangers in need without seeking recognition. His